Hey everybody, this is John for MTG Nexus, both here on Twitch and later on the YouTubes. Finishing up our Grixis Delver list from the other league from the other day. So far I think we're 2-1 league. We've played against Tron, Burn, and Amulet. A couple takeaways from the early list is Sprite Dragon definitely ups the clock along with Delver. Gives you very quick clocks against some of the a little bit more interactive decks where Lurrus comes in and allows you to have a little bit better of grindy elements. Beyond that, a couple of things I have noted. Not quite sure about the split on the discard spells and counter spells. I think in the camp of you really kind of want to be on one or the other. I think given Delver and such, you probably generally want to be on mostly light permission like Mana Leak, etc. I've noticed some other people are playing like Kologun's commands in some of these like Archmage's Charm spots. I'm not sure. Like obviously that leans into the grinding elements. Previously, Grixis Delver back in the day would be a very good grindy deck post board with like Snapcasters and Kologun's commands and such. This is before the advent of Force of Negation and Archmage's Charm. 2 copies of Unearth helps with the grinding a little bit. But at the end of the day, you're basically an aggro deck with 10 threats in your deck besides Lurrus. Maybe you need to round that out with a little bit other threats. I'm not quite sure what else you'd throw into the mix. But beyond that, the list has performed solidly so far. We've gotten on, I think both of the matches we won, honestly, have been a little bit of luck. Just from the standpoint of, like, we top decked well against Tron, and then we had just the perfect lineup against Amulet Titan, and then Burn just felt like a rough matchup. I do know there was one Delver player that was talking on Twitter how he had like a really good record against Burn, but I'm not sure if he was on the Demir version or if he was on the Grixis version. Grixis version, obviously, your mana's a little bit more painful, a little bit more difficult to avoid taking damage from your mana base, etc. So, let's see if we're another Lurrus mirror. So we are in a Lurrus mirror. 3 lands, Serum Visions, Sprite Dragon seems pretty reasonable. That's mulliganing to 6. So with us in the play, I could lead on Serum Visions, but the thing is, I don't know what I'm digging for. So right now, I'm just going to hold up Lightning Bolt and potentially just fetching a tap land so we don't take as much damage from our lands. It's been reasonable so far. I honestly think it's better leveraged in Burn, but it adds an element to Delver. I honestly think the card that might push Delver back into the format a little bit is Sprite Dragon. So we might very well be up against... Alright, let them take whatever they're going to take. We might very well either be up against Death Shadow or the Delver Mirror. I'm not quite sure yet. I haven't seen Lurrus too much out of GDS yet, so I'm guessing we're against Delver, but I guess we'll find out. This is something a couple months ago you wouldn't even have thought you would have seen, or even a couple weeks ago, seeing Delver again. I think Delver has been one of the key cards kind of missing from the format. So our opponent's going to get a Bobble Trigger. I think they're waiting for us to crack the fetch land here. Instead, we draw another land. So knowing the hand that we currently have, I think I can go ahead and just fetch Steam Vents here and get a basic island. Kind of minimizing how much damage we take while still being enableness. No, I need to get Watery Grave. I should have still fetched. I was just trying to deny them information. I think I was getting a little too cute here, especially in a matchup that while it's going to be somewhat... Matchup that's going to be somewhat grindy is going to be probably as much about incidental damage as well. And by us drawing another land, we're in some trouble, so... Still don't know if they're on... What's up, Razzie1? How are you? I don't think it's worth it in... I think I was going to fetch Basic Island here. I don't know if it's worth it in, like, Grixis, but I think it might be worth it in, like, some of the other... Like, some of the ones that have access to, like, Goyf and such, it might be worth. But the problem with Grixis is not only are you giving up, you'd be giving up Street Wraith, but you'd also be giving up the Delve threats. I think it's a little bit more manageable in the... I'm going to play out Delver here. We have a Thoughtseize on top, which we can decide if we want to keep or not. I could also snap back Unearth on Sprite Dragon, but I think we're going to wait until next turn. So our opponent's choked on mana. It's possible I'm supposed to be... It's been okay so far, Razzie. The previous stream, when I did the first 3 matches, one of our wins was pure top deck luck. Like, we had like 8 or 10 outs to beat Tron. And we drew one of the outs. Inquisition. So they're probably going to take Snapcaster Mage here. Do I care? Because Thoughtseize, Flip Delver, hit for 3. Like, I'm not getting any value if I get rid of Snapcaster, but I think I'm fine with this for now. I think at this point I just want to flip the Delver, cast Thoughtseize, and kind of go from there. See what they have going on. I'm curious what the heck they are. Okay, so their hand is like Delver, Death Shadow, Drown in the Lock, Thoughtseize, Seal of Fire, Seal of Fire. So the only 2 cards they can currently cast are Death Shadow and Delver. I think I just take Death Shadow and kind of hope to punk them a little bit here. Because right now we have 9 points of damage. Next turn we could cast Lurrus, bring back something. Like, I have to be careful not to put them in whatchamacallit range, and I still want to be able to get rid of my hand if I have to. I think I'm going to throw the first bolt at the face and then debate from there. Fetch a tapped Watery Grave, that way we're not taking any unnecessary damage. Is Opt better than casting Lurrus here? I think we need a 5th land to leverage Lurrus, so I'm going to go ahead and attack with Insectile, cast Opt, and go from there. So it looks like we're up against some type of Delver Death Shadow variant, which I think is interesting. Okay, bottom of their that land. Fortunately, our opponent has full knowledge. He's getting the Delver trigger here. It's probably a land then, right? I guess they could have like a billion. Alright, and they just scoop. So some type of Delver Death Shadow variant. Probably want the Fatal Pushes. Excuse me. Probably interested in Mystical Disputes of some number. Might want a Spell Bomb. Probably don't want the discard spells. They're not the greatest in this style of matchup. Because the only reason our Thoughtseize was live there is because they got choked on one land. And then beyond that, Drown in the Loch is fine because they actively put stuff in their own graveyard. Bolt's fine against Delver. Let me go down one Force of Negation here. Hopefully our opponent will continue the game here. It's possible they have DC'd. As far as other sideboard go, like choices like potentially Flusterstorm could be okay. Maybe over another Force of Negation. The problem with Force is this is like an attrition matchup to a certain degree. So, like, how much do you want to value protecting your threats, and how much do you want to, like, avoid 2-for-1ing yourself? So we can probably surmise that they have Death Shadow, Delver, maybe Snapcaster Mage. They might have Sprite Dragon. Beyond that, I don't really think we can draw too much inference from what we saw. But I do really think it's kind of hard to turn on Death Shadow without access to Street Wraith. So I'm not sure if it's worth it for Death Shadow to play Lurrus. So this hand, interesting choices, right? Sure. Turn 1 Delver's a little bit rough for us with this particular hand. We start by bobbling ourselves before we decide what we want to play turn 1. If anything, Unearth. Unearth is an interesting one here, but I think... I think I'm just supposed to run Nihil Spell Bomb out here. I'm taking 3 to fetch the red source, but we really need a red source for Sprite, and I don't think there's too much on Mystical. We actively want a Mystical Dispute onto, so just get the Spell Bomb out of our hand. This might be one of those hands of try to play Sprite Dragon and hope we can protect it. Might be drawing a few too many lands to do that particular strategy. Thoughtseize. Okay. Took Force Implication, that's interesting. Good chance this just dies. I think I'm okay with that, though. I could hold it back to try to prevent 3 damage. But I think because they're actively a Death Shadow strategy, it's possible that we want to try to turn this into a race since we're not drawing a removal spell. Looks like they just have a removal spell for it anyway. Lurrus plus Bobble. Yep, I should have cracked Spell Bomb in response. Question is, what would I even fetch here? Get as much value off of it as they can. Of course, we draw another land. Don't think we're supposed to try to race here at this point. think it's possible that these mystical disputes are just nonsense. Because they may not actually have all that many blue cards in their deck. Alright, moving on to the next game. Alright, they have Stubborn Denial, so looks like they're a Death Shadow Delver. Still don't think Force of Negation's actively good. It's possible we want Flusterstorm over one of the forces. Once again, not a huge fan of Inquisition and Thoughtseize in a Delver deck to begin with. They're a little bit different than Death Shadow. I think Death Shadow, you actively take a turn or two to set up. Delver sometimes you just go Delver, like, especially our good draws are like Delver and the Sprite Dragon. Try to back it up with counter spells, so. I think Flusterstorm fights the battle over removal spells and even discard potentially better than Force of Negation does, both because you can't afford card disadvantage in this kind of matchup. I made several small mistakes there, not cracking Nihil Spellbomb in response to the first or the Lurrus coming into play, enabling them to get a extra card that we probably couldn't beat anyway. Collective Brutality probably isn't quite as good against them, simply because they're a Delver and Death Shadow deck, so they're a little bit of a... And we still don't know what their tertiary threat is, so... Like, are they just literally a Delver and Death Shadow deck, and you're hoping those 8 threats get you there? Sand seems fine. Awkward because of the double unearth. I think I'm fine with that, though. Just running out Darkslick Shores into Nihil Spellbomb here. They've had the Mishra's Bauble like every game. That's kind of annoying. My hand isn't particularly good. I think this turn we're either going to Cycle Unearth or crack Spellbomb, just to deny them the ability to go like Lurrus into Bauble next turn. Yep. Problem for us is like we're kind of playing the control role here, while both sides kind of are. I wonder if they're really going to jam Lurrus into the face of a known Archmage's Charm. they're just going to play Death Shadow. Okay. I think we try to take Archmage's Charm here at the end of turn. Or try to take Death Shadow with Archmage's Charm. Obviously, it's not the best, because if they have a Stubborn Denial, we're in a bit of trouble, but I think we need to try to set up to draw like a Fatal Push or something. So... And if this actually works and it dies, then we clear out the graveyard before they can bring it back with Lurrus. Like, it really took you that long to figure out how to... Okay, sure. Alright, kill you. They have another Stubborn Denial, obviously they wanted it more. Okay. I guess we crack the hot spell bomb. Hope to draw a push here. Alright, at least it's only a 4/4. Because, like, our Lurrus literally does absolutely nothing. We could bolt the Delver, and then they can just Lurrus bring back. I guess I'm supposed to cycle here, maybe. Fetch a basic island, cycle Unearth here. Once again, kind of hoping to hit a Fatal Push or something here. And they're going to draw a Collective Brutality. That's kind of rough. Alright, Manly could be reasonable here. So, like, their only constraint this turn is their mana. Never mind. So, Bolt Delver takes 6. I think we're just dead this turn. Because I have to Bolt the Delver before combat. Because otherwise we're just dead on board. And they could always potentially fetch Shock here. And then Brutality S for the win. Yep. Alright, one more match to go. I think the biggest, like, issue I found with this Delver, with Delver in general, but this particular version of Delver, is just the vulnerability to lightning bolt based effects and such, and the fact that, like, all of your threats can die to bolt, and bolt is probably one of the more played cards right now in Modern, between Prowess, Burn, Delver, and then just like Jund and such. It probably has a companion too. Here, a Giganta deck. So could be a large number of things. Probably means I'm interested in casting. So what decks are running Giganta right now? There's quite a few decks that could actually probably run it. I would think the initial things are like yeah, I'm probably interested in all of these spells. Saving the Bauble to pair with Sprite Dragon next turn. Humans. Ugh. Suddenly my plan looks a lot worse. Especially if they drop a Thalia next turn. But let's go with the plan we got. Ether Vial isn't the best draw for them, but it certainly is problematic. So as long as whatever they play this turn isn't terrible for us, we should be in decent shape with Mana Leak plus other stuff. I think the key card we're worried about are like Reflector Mage and Thalia. Maybe we got lucky and they kept the one-lander. I feel like we should have quite a bit in our sideboard. Pushes, Brutalities, Grims, Abrades. Yeah, we got quite a bit in our sideboard. That's pretty reasonable in this matchup. And unlike Burn, we're not just cold to something like, well, actually Auriok Champion is pretty rough for us, huh? Alright, so you thought that long to figure out which... Oh, we're getting Reflector Mage, aren't we? Meddling Mage, sure. What do you even name here? A lightning bolt would be obviously Lurrus of the Dream Den, sure. Well, good-ish timing anyway. I think I'm supposed to Thought Seize here. See what their hand is. Tenant, Noble Hierarch, Kitesail Freebooter. Probably just take Noble Hierarch, right? Because whatever else they play this turn, next couple turns, we can actually counter. And then if they don't do anything, we can just actually... And like we could potentially steal Bile. Just choke their hand on all 2-drops here. Counterspells are normally very bad against humans, so the fact that we might be able to leverage them here is pretty good for us. Sure. So we might struggle to win the race. Now we get to work with perfect information. We're drawing a Noble Hierarch, which is admittedly rough. So can I actually kill them here? Obviously not this turn. So they're drawing Noble Hierarch. So Hierarch plus Thalia's Lieutenant could deal 7 damage this turn. If I cast Opt-in Serum Visions, that puts Sprite to a 7. And then cast Archmage's Charm, steal their Noble Hierarch, and they're just dead. Hit them for 8, and then we know they can't kill us, so we're actually able to win this game. Because no other cards in hand are Thalia's Lieutenant. So they can deal 3, 6, 7 this turn. If they play Noble Hierarch, they can only swing for 5. Alright. Definitely want a Braid. Definitely want Lavamancers. Definitely want Fatal Pushes. Probably want Collective Brutalities, even though it's not the most efficient removal spell. These Force of Negations can get on out of here. These Mana Leaks can get on out of here. Thought Seizes can probably get out of here. But that does leave us a little bit cold to Auriok Champion. Just have to take that gamble, I guess. Like, hope we can race it. Really don't want discard spells actively in my deck, and I really actively don't want counter spells. The only reason Archmage's Charm makes the cut is because it can steal 1/1s, especially like a large champion in the parish. And potentially Ether Vial if their hand is. We're currently 2-2. It's the same league that I started yesterday. I lost to a Death Shadow. Death Shadow Delver hybrid deck. Don't know how to explain it. This hand's okay. Like, turn 1 Delver is alright. We have no removal. So, am I okay with a hand that is like Delver of Secrets into stuff? I think so. Like, it's possible on the draw. I'm just supposed to actively look for removal. Unearth is another card that maybe should have been cut. One of them. Archmage's Charm, about one of the worst draws in our deck. Once again, I'm not a huge fan of Archmage's Charm, but like it has its place in this matchup. Especially the gain control of target non-land permanent. Yep, whatever. Kite Sail, sure. So we know they don't have a champion in the parish in hand. They could have Noble Hierarch still. And they definitely boarded an Auriok champion because they don't have whatchamacallit reveal this game. So we can surmise a couple of things about their sideboarding. Alright, no, I don't want to reveal Sparkle Bluff Canal. I think despite giving away information, I will however play it. Looks like they have no 1-drops in hand. So Archmage's Charm would actually probably be pretty good against them. The question is with Opt, do I roll the dice on Bolt or do I roll the dice on Fatal Push? Let's get Reflector Mage. Okay. I think I roll the dice on opt here, hoping it's a bolt instead of a fatal push. Sprite Dragon ain't gonna cut it here. We'll draw. This kind of is what I was afraid of, that this hand would be a little too threat dense and not removal enough dense. It's like, do I just shock in and play Lurrus here? Feels like that's the play. Hopefully we can survive long enough to leverage all the Delvers in our hand. It does the echo every once in a while. I hate when it does that. It's still doing it. Alright. There's no rhyme or reason for it, it just kind of happens. I really like to know what causes it. The nearest thing I can figure out is it still tries to pick up the onboard microphone while using the snowball here. Alright, so they're flooding out a little bit, which is potentially nice, but also potentially problematic. This is another reflector mage, we're just going to get got. Humans is definitely a snowball deck. So if we basically don't draw a removal spell here, we're pretty much toast. I think at this point I'm just supposed to bolt, snap bolt, just at sorcery speed. We're going to take a lot of damage, but I think I'm okay with that. Bolt you. Go ahead and bolt the I'm going to chump here, take 2. And then next turn, if we live that long, we can go like Delver, Unearth, Snapcaster, Flashback Opt or something. Or if we happen to draw another 1-mana removal spell, we could go Delver, Unearth, Snapcaster, like push. So I think if we live through this turn, we'll be in okay shape. Obviously, there are certain cards that could still punk us out, like Manus Rider and such. But I don't think... And I think the last card in their hand's a blank, just based on the fact that they didn't... It's either a blank or a 2-drop. Alright, Island was like the best draw on our deck as far as non... Actually, I'm going to wait to play the second Delver first because I want to maximize the amount of outs I have with Opt here. So I'm going to do this, flashbacks, Opt, see what we hit. Gives us the most outs to hit other spells. I could play Lurrus, but I think Lurrus leaves us the most vulnerable to well, I mean, that's a card that could pull us kicking and screaming back into this game. Do this. Play out Grim. Pass the turn. Rough. I'm not a huge fan of our opponent's boarding plan because it is hecka vulnerable to removal, but obviously it worked out for them in this game where we didn't draw a whole lot of so I think we just double chump here. I have no choice but to double chump, huh? Or I guess I could double block here, but that accomplishes nothing. So I just have to chump, chump, take one. Another Ether Vial, not, yep. So their hand was literally all blanks except that Deputy of Detention. Go to 2, which is a little rough. I don't have enough Does an Earth plus Bauble do enough here? I mean, it kind of keeps us alive, but what are we really drawing to? Alright, well, let's start with by casting Bauble first. See what their next draw step is. It's another land. Okay, okay. So we unearth, Snapcaster, unearth. Go to 1. much, War Dog. How you doing? Alright, Drown the Lock. We're kind of getting somewhere. Go to 1. Sorry to hear that. What's wrong, man? So once again, our mana is kind of restricting us a little bit. Thalia is rough, but doesn't really change things for the next turn. Actually, Drowning the Lock doesn't do anything here, so I think we're just dead. Oh, that's not good. Lurrus. What do I even bring back here? Like, I can bring back Grim, I guess. Kind of hope we hit something here. We know they're getting Thalia, which is going to further restrict our abilities to cast things next turn. Here's Thalia, which doesn't really change anything this turn, fortunately. Yep. Block there, block there. At least that turns on Drowning the Lock, at least. One, two, three, four, five, six. So we have access to 7 mana. Which means I can go Delver plus play both spells if I have to. I'm trying, War Dog. I'm trying. This has been an insane game. Okay. Don't think that game was over. In fact, I think they're still kind of favored at that point. I get 2 1-1s back. Guess I shouldn't take look a gift horse in the mouth there, right? So, thought process on the deck so far, besides the fact that the version we copied had 14 cards on the sideboard, I already know about that. I think there's a couple of things that I'm like not sure of is the presence of these 3 discard spells kind of at random in a Delver Sprite Dragon deck, and then the lack of like threats beyond Delver and Sprite Dragon. So I think the thought process for me is finding another threat or another thing, whether that just be put more Snapcaster mages in the deck, whether that be shifting some things around. I think, and then that, and I think we saw a very clear split of how Delver was doing. I think in the matchups where I don't think Swiftspear is what you want to be. This is more of a tempo deck. Swiftspear is far better in just a pure aggressive deck. I would think something like more Snapcasters or JVP maybe. There's gotta be Thing in the Ice even. Like, I know Thing in the Ice doesn't necessarily play well with some of the stuff going on here, but just like some type of threat that's like a control-ish threat, but also can be aggressive. Like, I like Delver, I like Sprite, and I like some number of snaps. I just don't know what that extra oomph is, because I think much like Death Shadow, we really suffer in the games where we don't find an early threat. I think the deck is... We saw a very clear split of we lost to other interactive decks, and we beat kind of the stuff decks. We beat Amulet, we beat Tron, we beat humans. So like the decks that are lacking good, quick, 1-for-1 solid removal, we lost to. And the decks that are kind of like synergy or built around certain... Brazen Borrower can't. If Lurrus gets banned, we could run Brazen Borrower or Vendilion Click. But as long as we want to be a Lurrus deck, we can't run those cards. That's the restriction, is it has to be a 1 or 2 mana threat. Could become a Death Shadow deck, warp some things a little bit. It's no problem. These companion... I don't know how many people I've seen on the Burn forums go, how can you have Skewer the Critics in your Lurrus of the Dream Den deck? This is the point in time where you need the RTFC sleeves. For those of you who don't know, it's read the ducking card. Yeah, this deck was kind of a blast to play. Wanted to finish the league. I have other stuff I kind of have to bop in and out. Otherwise, I would do a longer stream today. But I did want to finish this league at least. Deck's solid. I don't think it's like breaking the format. I like the addition of Sprite Dragon. I like Delver. I like not having to put my life total to such a low degree. But it still feels like something's a little missing here. Like it's kind of vulnerable to the grindy decks. Doesn't feel like it's that great against Burn. Kind of a problem right now. Like if your threats are vulnerable to bolts, even with Lurrus, you're just like, So, well, thank everybody for hanging out today. If you're new to the channel, please consider giving us a follow. If you like modern content, especially Burn and Jun, a little bit of other stuff sprinkled in from both Pioneer and Modern, check out our main YouTube channel. We have a secondary YouTube channel, which is for historic and Magic format, which I kind of do in my free time. So that actually makes sense, especially if we remove the discard spells. The Cutthroat makes a lot of sense if we remove the Thoughtseize portion of the deck. Could go like Delver, Sprite Dragon, Snapcaster Mage, a couple Brineborn Cutthroats. Yeah, that definitely feels like it. I mean, in some ways it plays against the concept of Sprite Dragon, but in other ways it plays with the rest of the strategy. So I could see running like a couple of Brineborn Cutthroats. See how that goes. Thanks, War Dog. That's an awesome suggestion. So, well, thank everybody for hanging out. I might be back later this evening with some prowess. We'll see. Today's kind of a hit and miss kind of day because of I have to pick up the girlfriend. My brother's asking me if I want to come over for dinner. My parents have their own plans. This is why I don't get as much done on my days off as I want to sometimes. But thank everybody for hanging out. This has been John for MTG Nexus. Don't forget to give us a follow here on Twitch and give us a subscribe over on the YouTubes. Peace.